Hello! And what do you want for Christmas, little boy? That, of course, is from arguably the best Christmas movie ever made, A Christmas Story. Best Santa Claus ever. Maybe the only better Santa Claus in film than the Christmas Story Santa is Billy Bob Thornton's Bad Santa. But anyway, I digress. Welcome to episode 85 of Dank Times Danker Thoughts with me, Angelo Grosso. I'm jacked up on crazy pills because I just got my booster and I'm waiting for the inevitable crash because I've talked to a few people that have had the booster and every single one at least feels lethargic and achy for about a day, day and a half. Now, poor Kiwi, she got a fever and some other stuff, so hopefully she survives. And speaking of the vaccine, and really just COVID-19, and in the spirit of Christmas and the holidays, President Biden praised the previous Trump administration's efforts in rolling out the COVID-19 vaccine. In fact, President Biden's praise surprised former President Trump, probably because that vile garbage abortion in a toilet of a human being, Donald Trump, has been really railing against the vaccines, railing against the Biden administration, really just going all balls to the wall over every nonsense, even though he did just get a booster, and he was at one of his cult meetings with all his cult supporters, and he actually said to the crowd, hey, I got a booster, and he got booed. God, I just hope they pull a Mussolini on Trump inevitably, his supporters. But anyway, back to the story here. President Biden praised the Trump administration's efforts in rolling out the COVID-19 vaccines. Trump then told Fox News in an interview he was both surprised and appreciative of Biden's comments. I think he did something very good. You know, it has to be a process of healing in this country, and that will help a lot. What will really help you is if you just stop talking or just get a pillow over your face for about 5 minutes. I think he did something very good. When we came up with these incredible vaccines, all three of them, and therapeutics, we did a tremendous job, and we should never disparage them. We should be really happy about it because we've all saved millions and millions of lives all over the world. What a piece of dog shit. So if Biden can thank Trump, and Trump can be appreciative, surely during Christmas dinner, you and your right-wing uncle can get along just fine. And I planned today out around the booster. I got plenty of TV to binge watch. I don't know what took me so long, but I started watching the Righteous Gemstones on HBO, and it's a fucking wild show, and I really like it. I love Danny McBride. He's my doppelganger, for crying out loud. And I loved everything he does with David Gordon Green. That creative team, I mean, they've done Eastbound and Down, Vice Principals, and I think they did a movie, The Foot Fist Way, which was pretty funny, so big fan of that group. The new season of The Witcher is dankalicious. Oh, Henry Cavill. Oh my god. I would love to ride Henry Cavill's shoulders. I mean, he just looks like he smells good 24/7. And I'm not talking that sexy BO smell. I think he smells like sandalwood, vanilla, and bourbon all the time. I don't want to fuck him or anything. I just want to rub my naked body up and down him, kind of like a cat on a scratching post. That's kind of what I want to do. Call me crazy. God, I bet even if you just pricked a few hairs off his chest, it could make your whole house smell good. It's like that online viral house making it smell good. Wait, dude, I am high as shit. I can't explain what I'm trying to say. There was a viral thing going around a couple of years ago about how to make your whole house smell really good, really cheap. What they told you to do is open the oven and put it on like 350 and do a little droplets of vanilla extract in the oven, and it'll just stay there forever. The downside of that is it makes your whole house smell like a fucking cookie dough factory. Willy Wonka ain't got shit on my house. You know what I'm saying? That kind of smell. So that's the downside. Especially if you're a fat fuck like me, you don't want your house constantly smelling like freshly baked cookies. I mean, you think detox is bad for alcoholics and heroin and meth users. No. The fat shakes are a real goddamn thing. Anyway, when I voted last November, I thought the name on the ballot was Biden Kamala Harris, not Manchin Cinema. So apparently, I didn't know this, but the actual president of the United States is Joe Manchin. Oh, who would have thunk? Oh, the Democrats done it again. Do. Manchin at this point has said he's not going to back the Build Back Better plan, even though his state alone, his own state, would benefit immensely from some of the programs in that bill. But he doesn't care about that shit. The Manchin family is as corrupt as the most corrupted Washington, D.C. families. I mean, him and his wife, with just alone the fossil fuels and the pharmaceutical companies, I can't even talk, pharmaceutical companies alone is gut-wrenching. But then his fucking daughter, that EpiPen spiking bitch. I mean, it's just disgusting. The one family you wish COVID would take a few out hasn't happened, whereas some awesome people have died from COVID. Nothing have come to mind, but I'm sure it's happened. Christ. If Manchin follows through with this, because Schumer still wants to hold the vote, and Bernie Sanders backs that as well, I think the Democrats, again, are banking on the morality victory here, where they are assuming that potential voters will see Manchin on TV vote no, and then when he's up for election, they can say, look, Manchin did not vote for this bill. I don't think people are swayed like that. I really don't. The Democrats, they're out of touch a lot of ways with the voter. So are the Republicans in different ways, but they're both out of touch. The progressives seem to be more in touch, I would like to think, but everything they do is so overly politicized that the message gets watered down. And continuing with that prick Manchin, there's a story here. Corporate donors gave to Manchin before announcement he wouldn't support Build Back Better. Shocker. Joe Manchin Political Action Committee saw a surge of contributions from corporate donors in the fall before his announcement that he would not support President Biden's Build Back Better social spending package. According to CNBC's analysis of Federal Election Commission filings, sounds amazing. Sounds incredibly stimulating. Manchin's leadership PAC, Country Roads, fucking idiot, received 36 donations from corporations in the last 2 months and raised close to $260,000 in that time period. Fucking asshole. So it's funny, he gets all this money from super PACs. I mean, I'm sorry, what a dumb fuck name. Country Roads? What is this, a fucking John Denver song? Go fuck yourself. In November, Country Roads PAC received corporate contributions in the range of $2,500 to $5,000 from donors including, get this, American Express, fuck 'em, Goldman Sachs, fuck 'em, Lockheed Martin, fuck 'em, United Health Group, fuck 'em, Blue Cross Blue Shield, really fuck 'em, and CNX Resources, a natural gas company, fuck 'em all. The total amount raised last month amounted to $110,000. Manchin's PAC also raised $150,000 in October from widely known corporations such as Verizon, fuck 'em, Union Pacific, fuck 'em, Wells Fargo, ooh, really fuck 'em in the goat ass, and PACs tied to the coal and mining industries. Oh, shocker. So he gets money from all these awful, awful, awful companies, and then he's like, what do you want me to do? You want me to vote against something that's going to benefit not only the people in my state, but everybody in the country? I'll do whatever you say, big money. What a piece of dog shit human being. So, fucking President Manchin, I did not see that one coming. And I thought I was like a magic 8-ball, okay? 1 out of 6 times I'm gonna get it right. Oh wait, magic 8. I think I just fucked up my own joke. A magic 8-ball implies it's an 8-sided dice, right? Inside the magic 8-ball. And what did I just say? A 6? 1 out of 6? Holy shit, guys. I got my booster, and then I immediately came home, did a couple bong rips, and got a triple shot latte. Because I was thinking, if my arm starts to ache, I don't want to feel it. I want to be fucked up, but I also want to be hyper because, I'm not doing shit today. So I want to watch my TV. I want to play my vids. I want to read my books, and I want to do some podcasting, But I think I have fucked up the balance because I'm having a hard time even making coherent sounds that form a word at this point. Or maybe it's just me. But anyway, President Manchin, fucking up big time. Biden, if he doesn't get Manchin a turn, I mean, he was already looking fucked in the midterms, but now he's all but doomed. Unless he does something crazy like legalize marijuana or do a prison reform. or wipe out student loan debt, which we've been harking at him to do for the last year and a half, or send out another stimulus. I mean, there's many ways that he could, I think, at least make the midterms close, 50-50. He would have to do a lot, but just releasing nonviolent offenders from prison, not all, but the ones that, make sense. Yeah, legalize marijuana, stimulus. There was another big one that I just thought of, but like I said, the fucking coffee and the fucking bong rips are just making me a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of situation right now. Anyway, I don't know if the White House is listening to this podcast, but your boy's got ideas. Trust me. I have a lot of friends across the entire spectrum, and I like to think that I can at least come to the middle with the majority of them. Not always. Every now and then, I have to just show my cards and say, are you fucking out of your mind? And then, pandemonium. But I'm pretty good at pandemonium as well, so I can do everything. So, reach out to me. I can't guarantee that I'll have the Democrats control both the House and the Senate in the midterms. I can't make that guarantee. But what I can guarantee you is it'll be a hell of a lot closer than how it looks right now. Last thing I'll say about President Biden on this podcast here is, like I just said, there's a lot of ways that he could pass some legislation and at least make the midterms and his own re-election look a lot closer. But so far, he's kind of fucked, in my opinion. He's fucked over a lot of the younger voters that have voted for him. And there's a video I want to play you from Breaking Points that kind of illustrates that. So let me go ahead and get that up here.
Biden was elected in no small part because millions of young people who had largely backed Bernie Sanders in the primary sucked it up and voted for Joe. In fact, turnout for Americans under the age of 30 skyrocketed in 2020 with around 55% of eligible voters showing up. In 2016, for comparison, that number was just 44%. Now remember back in 2008 when there were a million articles written about how young folks showed up in droves for the rock star Obama? So in that historic year for youth turnout, only about 53% of those under the age of 30 actually showed up to vote. So Biden actually bested Obama on this metric. And of those young voters who did turn out, about 65% gave their vote to Joe Biden. That was 11% higher than any other age group. So while post-election analyses, they rightly fixated, understandably, on how the suburbs swung to Biden and the Dems, young people were just as decisive. And how is Biden faring now with this group? Absolutely terribly. In fact, Biden's approval rating with young voters has fallen off a cliff. Just take a look at this. At the beginning of Biden's administration, back when he was beating Trump and distributing vaccines and delivering checks, his highest approval ratings by age group came from voters under 30. Now, that situation has completely reversed. He now garners his lowest approval ratings by age from voters under 30. Overall, their approval of Biden has fallen a staggering 50%. So guys, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out why. Biden has broken every significant promise that he made to these generations on every issue that they care the most about. Let's start with college because it's so specific and it's so clear. Here is how it started.
I'm going to make sure that everybody in this generation gets $10,000 knocked off of their student debt as we try to get out of this god-awful pandemic.
And here is how it's going.
I think you said last week that you're working on a plan to help students pay. But what about President Biden's campaign to forgive or cancel $10,000 in student debt? What is the message to those people who feel that he's yet to follow through on that promise?
If Congress sends him a bill, he's happy to sign it. They haven't sent him a bill on that yet.
Guys, Biden does not need a bill. This is an issue where he could act with the stroke of a pen, but he's decided not to. A direct breach of campaign promises that has nothing to do with Congress, nothing to do with Joe Manchin or the Senate parliamentarian. And that's forgetting about the fact that he promised 2 years of free college, a promise that was unceremoniously dropped from Build Back Better months ago. But wait, there's more. At a time when American pessimism about the economy is approaching historic levels, Biden has decided to restart student loan payments. On college affordability, disappointments and lies abound. But let's keep in mind, only about 40% of young Americans have a college degree, so we shouldn't collapse the interests of young people just down to student debt and college affordability. According to economist YouGov, the number one issue for voters under 30 is healthcare. In fact, healthcare is at or near the top of the list for every age group, but for young people, it makes a lot of sense. They face a precarious gig work economy where they're unlikely to get healthcare from their employer, and in fact, suffer from the highest rates of uninsurance of the entire population. At the same time, their health overall, and mental health in particular, is in really bad shape. Over half of young Americans are overweight or obese. 1 in 4 has had serious recurring suicidal thoughts. So lack of access and affordability combines with a severe health crisis to make healthcare a critical issue for this age group. That's a big part of why they like Bernie so much. Medicare for All was the centerpiece, of course, of his campaign. Biden always opposed single payer, but he did make some promises, guys.
We need a public option, now more than ever, especially when more than 20 million people are unemployed. That public option will allow every American, regardless of their employment status, the choice to get a Medicare-like plan.
Now, there's no sign Biden was ever really serious about a public option. In fact, as soon as he won his primary, it dropped from his campaign completely. It was never even included in Build Back Better. Given the brutality of a pandemic which has killed 800,000 Americans, Biden could also have used existing laws in novel ways to expand Medicare to all for the duration of the pandemic. It would have been challenging for it, but fine. Be on the side of getting everyone care and let the other side make the case for keeping people from being able to see a doctor at a time of catastrophic health collapse. That's to say nothing of the failures on lowering the Medicare age and dealing with prescription drug prices, among other issues. Now, the second most important issue for young Americans is climate change. In fact, arguably, the existential threat of climate change was as strong a driver for progressive young Americans to back Biden as the threat from Trump. Remember the ads that Noam Chomsky cut centering on the twin crises of Trump and the climate? On climate, all the action was in Build Back Better, which has now, of course, gone up in flames. This was always a dicey prospect, given the fact that Joe Manchin literally chairs the committee tasked with writing the big climate provisions. Now, it is all dead. But there's more. Biden has gone above and beyond to open up new areas to drilling, approving leases that could lead to an additional 600 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions. That is a grand betrayal of young Americans who will be the ones that live with the worsening storms, the flooding, the tornadoes, the wildfires, the water wars, the climate refugees, and mass destabilization, which will be the inevitable result of our current trajectory. It is telling to me that actually the only generation which cares more about climate than our young people are our elders. With their own health care and basic living secured through Social Security and Medicare, they're free to think about what kind of a world they'll pass on to their grandchildren. The incompetence, cowardice, and inaction of Biden has nearly sealed their fate. Finally, like all Americans, young people are concerned with jobs and the economy. Promises on this front include the $15 minimum wage and the PRO Act, both of which fell victim to the whims of an unelected bureaucrat with the job title parliamentarian. Here, the outlook is grim for young adults. Even those who did what they were supposed to do and got that college degree with all the debt that comes along with it, they're not finding a real foothold in the labor market. Half of grads from last year have yet to find full-time permanent employment, and studies routinely find that if you don't get your feet under you fast in the workplace, your entire life trajectory gets knocked off course. Dreams like family or home ownership or starting a business or being able to travel, those things get pushed off further and further into the future. Precarity and rootlessness, they become the norm, with depression, addiction, and suicidal thoughts the inevitable companions for far too many.
And that is, of course, Crystal Ball from Breaking Points. And it's hard to disagree with most of what she said. Personally, I knew Biden would never do Medicare for all. He was never serious about it. And one thing I will give Biden, he never even attempted to flip-flop on it. He stayed on point the entire time during the entire debate and during his election. So I kind of disagree with her on that. Like, I don't know what young person thought that Biden was going to do Medicare for all or anything remotely close to that. But her other points I completely agree with, of course. But anyway, let's move on to a country that I think has actually figured out its political system. Gabrielle Borick, a leftist millennial who previously led anti-government student protests, won Chile's presidential election on Sunday and is set to become the country's youngest leader. With more than 90% of votes counted, Borick had won 56%, while his opponent had won 44%. "I'm going to be the president of all Chileans," Borick, 35 years old, said in a brief televised statement per the Wire service. Borick, who was elected to Congress in 2014, damn, he was young even then. So he was, how old? 2014 is 9 years ago, 8, 7? Shit, he was in his late 20s? Damn. Borick has vowed to use his presidency to bury the neoliberal economic model, ooh-wee, and increase taxes on the super rich. Oh, my dick and nips are getting hard. In order to improve social services. Oh my goodness, I gotta change my pants. Fight inequality and enhance environmental protections. Oh my goodness, now I'm gonna have to change all of my clothes and get a new chair. After the results were announced, his opponent, Jose Antonio Cast, who has drawn comparisons to former President Trump and previously defended Chile's military dictatorship, oh, what a pleasant guy, tweeted a photo of himself on the phone with Borick, saying he had congratulated him on the great success. Oh, what a country. I remember when America used to do things like that. From today, he is the elected president of Chile and deserves all of our respect and constructive collaboration. Chile is always first, Cost added. Wow. The losing candidate is actually gracious in a loss? Oh my God. Maybe one day U.S. can be as good as Chile in that regard. The country's outgoing president, Sebastian Pinera, also congratulated Borick via a video call. Wow. So not only does your opponent congratulate you, but the sitting president also is gracious. Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, now we know. America needs to be more like Chile. Although, who knows how this Gabrielle Borick is going to go. But the fact that he's doing a lot of things that I know most Americans want us to do as a country, specifically tax the super rich, inequality, and wants better protection for the environment. I mean, who's not on board with some of those things? Improving social services. Now, that's kind of a gray topic. Now, to me, improving social services is like better funding for public schools, better infrastructure, and, you know, the list goes on and on and on. Trying to building a safety net so that we don't get this insane gluttony of homelessness and opiate-addicted people out on the streets. There has to be a way that we need to do something to at least give them a chance at rehabilitation. You know, give them a safety net. But then after they climb back out and try to, and then they fall back down again, it's their own fault. And then you got to say, well, we lifted you up once. I mean, come on, man, you got to start figuring it out. This isn't a repeated thing, you know. You got to maybe 3 strikes you're out is an awful way to put people in prison, but 3 strikes and you're out and you're homeless or an addict, and we actually have social services to help you get clean or get a job trained, get the mental help you need. And maybe we could start funding insane asylums again, or whatever the PC term is. I don't know. The nut house. You know what I'm talking about. I don't know what you want to call those places. Mental rehabilitation centers just sounds a little bit too fascist for me there. And you know what? We just got to build a better foundation for all. That's all I'm saying. So that to me is what improving social services means. But who knows? Maybe to Gabrielle Borick it means something completely different. But I think it is a great outcome. I think it's an interesting outcome. And I applaud that the Chileans are moving in the right direction, in my opinion, especially if they're leaving a dictatorship. I'd like to see how it goes. Now, of course, America and Chile, I don't think you can really compare them equally. I don't know if that's fair. But this is something I'll be watching, to say the least. And lastly, Department of Justice reverses Trump-era pandemic home confinement policy. What the fuck does that mean? Attorney General Merrick Garland should be on the Supreme Court, but what are you going to do? Announced that the Department of Justice would allow some prisoners who were released to home confinement during the pandemic to stay out of prison, reversing a legal stance adopted in the last days of the Trump administration. Thousands of people on home confinement have reconnected with their families, have found gainful employment, and have followed the rules, Garland said in a statement. We will exercise our authority so that those who have made rehabilitative progress and complied with the conditions of home confinement, and who, in the interests of justice, should be given an opportunity to continue transitioning back to society, are not unnecessarily returned to prison. Garland cited a memo from the DOJ's Office of Legal Counsel that found that the relief bill enacted in the early days of the pandemic, known as the CARES Act, authorizes the department to use its discretion in allowing those on home confinement to stay out of prison. The new memo overrides the legal position that had been in effect since January, which was that the thousands of inmates on home confinement must be returned to prison once the pandemic was declared over. The Biden administration had been facing pressure for months to reverse the position and avoid reincarcerating people who had spent months reconnecting with their families and integrating back into their communities. Some criminal justice reform advocates had called on President Biden to use his clemency powers to avoid a mass influx of returning prisoners. So this is a great idea. I think this is a step forward in criminal justice reform. These people were released from prison due to the pandemic. And hey, if they're nonviolent and they've already reconnected with loved ones and families and communities, and they're working and staying out of trouble, then surely they've learned their lesson. Let them stay out there. You know, we need things like this to help rebuild so much of our crumbling justice system. And that's a step in the right direction, in my opinion. But anyway, with that, I think we're done with news. A really short one this week, ladies and gents. And I guess since I'm recording this a few days before Christmas, that we should talk about Angelo Grosso's history with the holiday known as Krampus, Kringle Christmas. Christmas growing up, of course, like most American children, middle class I should say, Christmas was a orgasmic event. And some of my earliest pictures I have with my family are of Christmas morning, even before my parents thankfully divorced. The first couple Christmases of my life were at my father's house when my parents were still together, and I was just a happy, chubby little boy. And the first couple photos of me opening presents, of course, they were Godzilla VHS tapes, because I've said it once, I've said it again, Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, and Anguirus all raised me equally as my parents. A lot of dinosaurs, a lot of DC and Marvel action figures, a lot of WWF and WCW stuff, just anything that the little boys liked in the late 80s, early 90s, your boy had them. And as I got older, I started to get 2 Christmases because, like I said, my parents divorced. My father is not a really good representative of parental gift giving on Christmas. Once I got to be, 10, he just said, you know what? Why don't you just tell me what you want and I'll buy it, or I'll just give you cash. That's the way my father wanted to do it, and that's how he has continued to do it for the last 20 years or so. I have given up the idea of him actually using his brain to think of an actual present besides just giving me a check. But in his defense, the best gift really is money. So once you strip away all the tradition and all the decor and all the hubbub about Christmas and you just want something, money's your best friend. Whenever I ask him, what do you want for Christmas? Do you want a handheld massager thing for your sore muscles? Do you want new kitchen utensils? Do you want, DVDs, TV? Like, what do you want? He always just waves up, don't buy me anything, which is, bah humbug. I don't know how my father wasn't the inspiration for both the Grinch and Scrooge on the Christmas Carol. He really is the combination. Dare I call him Scrinch? Scrinch Grosso. And even this year, he just turned 74, and I asked him, do you want to go on a trip somewhere? Something you and I could do? Do you want to go on a drive somewhere? I'm giving him ideas, and he just waved it all off. No. Tell you what, for Christmas, why don't you just take me and Elaine, his girlfriend of 20-odd years, why don't you take us out to dinner? I was like, oh, okay. Is there somewhere festive you want to go? Is there something that's like Christmas related? No, let's just go to the Wild Fin at the Landing. So that's what we did. I took him and Elaine out to the Landing, to Wild Fin. No dressing up, no bright lights and all that stuff. Just a very standard meal. But that's what he wanted, so that's what he got. But now, growing up with my mother and sister, they still went all out. Because, I've said it once, I've said it again. Growing up a only child, because even though I have a sister, she was 14 when I was born. So she really was another mother to me. A younger, hipper mother. I was always given the cliche presents, but of course I loved them all. I remember one of my favorite gifts of all time must have been 93 or 94, and I got the Sega Genesis. But was it the 8-bit one or the 16-bit one? It was a big deal at the time, and it was a couple $100. And I also was given Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and a gift card to go to Toys R Us for other games. But I was always given just nice, plump, rotund stockings full of food, drinks, apparel every now and then. And as I got older in my teenage years, every now and then, primarily my father and my sister, they would sneak in airplane bottles of booze because they knew Angelo's 14 or 15. He's going to drink. He's going to hang out with his buddies and get in trouble. We might as well supply him with said stuff so that he doesn't have to get it through iffier means. So Christmas to me growing up was always a pleasure. And I will say the greatest gift I was ever given in the history of Christmas ironically, was a gift that I never actually used, and it still tears me apart inside. But there's a good reason why I never used it. So let me back up a little bit and talk about the best present I ever received. It was my senior year in high school. So it was a little bit more of a special year because I'm graduating from high school. And I was given a lot of nice gifts from a lot of friends and family, primarily family. And the best gift of all was that my sister got 2 tickets to the Howard Shore Lord of the Rings Symphony that was due to come to the Seattle Symphony Orchestra in a couple months. And I just erupted out of happiness. And, I was crying. It's the best gift to this day. It's the best. I've spoken very much about my love of The Lord of the Rings, and one of the reasons I love those movies so much is the music. Howard Shore, in my opinion, has made one of the top soundtrack scores of all time in cinema history. And you look up Howard Shore, he's done some excellent scores to other movies, but to me, in my humble opinion, they pale in comparison to the 3 Lord of the Ring movies. And it was a big deal because not only was he playing the music, but they were going to have this big ass video screen right behind the orchestra. And they were going to be playing scenes of the movie that corresponded to the music. And it was going to be something like a 3-hour show. And oh my God, I just creamed my pants like cream corn, and it was the best holiday ever. Now, fast forward maybe a month or so. We're graduating from high school. My friend's family has a cabin in Idaho. We all decided let's all go celebrate graduation by going to the Idaho cabin. But, again, for reasons that I now know are due to there not being a god, everyone agreed on going to the cabin during the weekend of when that Howard Shore Symphony was going to be. I pleaded, I begged to move it just one weekend prior or after, but nope. I was voted down, and so I had to make a difficult choice. Do I go with my sister to a Lord of the Rings symphony where I would probably have memories until the day I die? Or do I buck that and go on a trip to Idaho with about 20 of my friends for a couple days and just go ham? And like the symphony, I knew that I was going to have memories for a lifetime from that trip. And it was so difficult for me to choose. But I chose friendship and camaraderie over my love of the Lord of the Rings, and I went on the Idaho trip, and my sister ended up giving the tickets away. And even though I had an amazing time with my friends in Idaho, and I still have fond memories of that trip, I can't help but just still have regrets about not going to the Lord of the Rings Symphony. Because it would have been something my sister and I could share together. It would have been something that I would treasure until my dying breath. But it was kind of a lose-lose situation. If I went to the symphony, I know the whole time I'd be thinking, I'm missing out with my friends, I could be partying, I could be making lasting memories. Either way, I was going to regret not doing the thing I chose to do. So, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Thanks God for fucking me over like that. You vile entity. And of course, as I got older, Christmases became a little bit different since now I was buying things for my family and friends. One of my worst Christmases was, I think, when I was 18 or 19. I had just moved out from home. I was living with 3 roommates in Covington going to Green River Community College. I got my first credit card from Kohl's, and I thought, you know what? I need to pay back my mom and sister for just years and years of excellent Christmases. So I went all out, maxed out the credit card, bought them a bunch of shit. The emphasis on was 2 pieces of jewelry, one for my mom, one for my sister. And I was so excited. And on Christmas Day, when I went to their house to give them the presents, they looked at the jewelry with such disdain and disappointment. They tried their best to hide it. They thanked me. They tried pretending, this is excellent. This is perfect, Angelo. Thank you. But I could tell right away they did not want it. So then I called it out saying, if you guys don't want it, that's fine. But I was broken inside. It killed me. And of course I was a little dramatic because again, I was, 19 or whatever. And, it kind of upset me and it stopped me from buying them presents for the next couple years. Well, that's not true. I bought them presents, but just, less risky presents, because now that I think about it, my mom and sister never wore jewelry. Never. They were just not jewelry people. But I thought, women like jewelry. So it was a little selfish on my part, not taking the time to really think, well, would my mom and would my sister actually want these diamond earrings and the diamond necklace and the gold bracelets? Do they actively wear any of that junk? No. They probably don't buy it for them. So what I did was did they keep the jewelry? I think they gave it away. I don't remember taking it back because I told them that I wanted them to have it because it was a thought that counts. But I never got that kind of experience with my old man. Like I was telling you earlier, he is not a lovey-dovey kind of guy around the holidays. He doesn't really care. He doesn't decorate. He doesn't dress up. He doesn't really care. He's bah humbug. Like I said, he's Scrinch. It could have something to do with the way my parents were brought up. See, my father complains tirelessly about how awful his life was, is, and will be. I think my father's hobby is not baseball card collecting, as he tells me. I think my father's actual hobby is complaining, nagging, and bitching. If you look up misanthropic bitch, there's a picture of my father in the dictionary. But I love him. But he was the youngest of three, and he was the youngest by far. His closest to his age brother was still about 10 or 11 years older than him. To this day, talks about how shitty his Christmases were. Oh, I wanted toys, or I wanted this or that. Oh, I was given as things that my parents should always be buying me. Underwear, socks, things like that. And I tried to remind him, well, sure, but you have to realize Grandpa and Grandma, they grew up during the Depression. Your father grew up in Italy during 2 world wars, and you've never really told me how well off financially you were, but you always do talk about how you grew up in the ghetto. Now, where the Italians lived in Seattle back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s was in Queen Anne, and it was called Garlic Gulch. There was a lot of blacks, Puerto Ricans, and Italians, and it was a very, very poor area. And so I tried reminding my father, I don't think many people in your neighborhood probably did have good Christmases. Then he would, of course, blow me off and say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. My next door neighbor, DeMario, his family always went all out, and his parents didn't do shit for a living. And I said, well, surely they had to if they had Christmas trees and full stockings and presents, and your family didn't do that. Or my father's right, and he just had asshole parents. Could be. But, they are immigrant parents. My grandmother didn't speak a word of English when she came here as a mail-order bride to my grandfather that was, I think he was almost 30 years older than her, or 20 years older, something strange, but that was common. What should I talk about? Kiwi's 20, and I'm 35, so what the fuck can I judge on that? So my father, I think, just had a kind of a hard bullshit upbringing, but I can't really trust the accuracy of his memories because, like I said, it's always slanted to negativity, whining, woe is me, trying to find a scapegoat. But maybe he's right. I don't know. I don't have a time machine. Now, my mother's upbringing was a whole hell of a lot different. She grew up in a Baptist farming household with, God, how many siblings does my mother have? 6 or 7 siblings. So you had 8 kids, 7 or 8 kids. I don't know how many family members I have. I lose count. All growing up in this little barn. But she did say that Christmas was a big deal to her and her family. And in fact, while my grandfather was still alive, he would talk about how much he loved the holidays. And I love talking to my grandpa about it. I miss that old man. But my mother said primarily it was on the religious aspects of Christmas. So they were going to a lot of church services, and it wasn't so much like it was in the movies. However, they still got decent presents, the house was decorated, and there was always events going on. So she had a halfway decent upbringing when it came to Christmas. Much better than my father's. So And I think that made them who they are, obviously. And those two have left their marks on me. Now, personally, I love the idea of Christmas. I like the decorations, I like the food, I like the camaraderie. I even like caroling, even though I would never do it, but I like singing the Christmas songs. I love Christmas movies. But it takes a lot for me to actually go out, buy all the shit, and decorate. And I actually buy presents throughout the year and just keep them until a birthday party or an anniversary or a holiday comes up. So I'm not big on going out purely to Christmas shop. But I've kind of made a deal with myself. I'm not going to go crazy in terms of decorations with the house until I meet that special someone, because I find myself more willing and wanting to do those things, to go out and chop down a Christmas tree, to make decorations, to make gingerbread houses, to do all that bullshit. I really like doing it when I have a partner, and I just haven't experienced that in some time. Now, Kiwi and I, we're still new in our relationship, but, we're still feeling all that stuff out, so we really haven't got to that point yet. So, this year, like last year, and maybe even the year before, it's kind of a low-key Christmas for me. I have no decorations outside, no Christmas tree, no stockings, nothing. I do have a few poinsettias around the house, because I do love poinsettias, but that's about it. Oh, I do have my wreath outside, too, that I thought was something different, but again, I don't know what I'm doing half the time when I'm buying Christmas shit, because I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't have an experience with that. So anyway, that's kind of Angelo's Christmas self-reflection. Parents did okay, and they left, for better or worse, some damage and some markings on me going forward, and how it affects me and how I treat and look forward to Christmas. But I do have my fingers crossed that hopefully next Christmas we won't be dealing with COVID variant number 69, and that things will be much more open, have much more parties, and that I actually will be more in a ho-ho-ho kind of spirit. Oh, and one thing I can't believe I haven't talked about yet is my love for ugly Christmas sweater parties, white elephant parties, or just Christmas parties in general. God, I love that stuff. And it's a big part of my love of Christmas is every year up to the last maybe 2 or 3 years, I've gotten Christmas sweaters, either make them or buy the ugly ones. And really before the pandemic, I was averaging 2 to 3 Christmas parties a year. And, I have ugly Christmas ties, sweaters, shirts, you name it. Santa hats, reindeer hats, antlers, all that cool stuff. I really like that kind of stuff, and I really love dressing up and going into work or just going out grocery shopping in a Santa hat or whatnot. I love that kind of stuff. Oh man, I've had some fun Christmas parties. In fact, one time I got so turned up at a Christmas party. This must have been when I was 23, maybe? 22 or 23? Was I in college? I think so. I went to my buddy's house in Fremont. We're having a big old party, and a friend of a friend of a friend was there, and she was looking good. And we eyeballed each other. I went over to her. We started macking on each other a little bit. Next thing you know, I had a few eggnogs in me, a few hot toddies, and I was really starting to sweat and stuff. And I looked over, a little self-conscious, because as a perpetual fat fuckboy in my mind, I always think that I just look like a beached whale, or that I'm just sweating like a whore in church. Like I had such a low self-esteem back then. And I made a joke about, oh man, I'm sweating so much. And she said, well, so am I. And she lifted up her arms, and sure enough, she had the biggest armpit stains there. And just like that, I was in love. So fast forward a little bit, I don't remember her name. I don't even really remember how the connection she had to anybody there. And if I'm being brutally honest, I don't even remember if we banged or not. But I remember there was a lot of awkward hand stuff. The making out was fun, but we were just sweaty messes. But Jesus, I love Christmas parties. I've had some fun times, man. Some really fun times. That's really what I miss the most because of this damn pandemic. is just getting together with friends, getting trashed, and either singing carols, karaoke, doing gingerbread houses, or whatever. You know, I love all that shit. So that's the stuff that I'm really going to miss because of this pandemic. And, you know, we're getting a little older, and a lot of my friends, selfishly, have decided to get married and reproduce. And so they don't hold the parties anymore. And I would hold them at my house, but they're not going to come. They have little brats now to take care of. So, fuck them. Just a little bit of jealousy on my part. Just a little bit, but... Oh, ugly Christmas sweaters. I love them. I love them. I still have about 4 or 5 upstairs now that I think about it. Maybe, you know, fuck it. Maybe I'll start wearing them, you know. I'm not going to wear them now. When am I going to wear them next? But with that, I think we can wrap up. So I hope everyone has a good Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever the Muslims and Buddhists believe in. I don't know what they celebrate. Hang up some mistletoe, see what happens. It's always a good party gag to hang mistletoe from your belt buckle. Yeah. Oh, fun times. Yeah. Have yourself some eggnog, light up a joint, put on Die Hard, maybe Scrooged, and yeah, make a couple days of it. This is the morning after my booster shot, and my arm got really sore for a couple hours, and I really slept like shit. But overall, I gotta say, just a little bit achy and icky and lethargic, but not too bad. No fever, no hallucinations, and unfortunately, I'm still not speaking Mandarin or picking up 5G. Bill Gates, you're a goddamn liar. Anyways, hope everyone takes it ho 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 sleazy. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, like get in arguments with family members during Christmas. Who gives a fuck? And yeah, treat others as you want to be treated, I guess. I don't know. Love you guys, and I will see you around the bend. This is from A Christmas Story, one of my favorite scenes. Classic.
Sing like this. Deck the halls with boughs of holly. Fa la 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 la. Try again. Deck the hall with boughs of holly. Ra 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 ra. Stop. Sing something else. Jingle bell, jingle all the way. All my fun is to ride in a horse and Stop. Kitchen, bring food for customers.
The Christmas duck.
Oh, yes, it's a beautiful duck. Yes, it really is. It's but you see, what? It's smiling at.
Cut off that fucking duck's head. I love it.
That Christmas would live in our memories as the Christmas when we were introduced to Chinese turkey.
I mean, if you don't like The Christmas Story, get the fuck out of my country. You know what I'm saying? Merry Christmas, everyone.